Victoria's blood ran cold. Her heart seemed to skip a beat, her breath catching in her throat. Sophia. The name barely escaped her lips, as if uttering it might summon the ghost she thought she'd long buried. Surprised, Sophia's voice was calm, almost serene, with a haunting quality that made the hairs on the back of Victoria's neck stand up. "You didn't really think you could get rid of me that easily, did you?" Victoria gripped the phone tightly, her knuckles white, her mind racing. The room seemed to close in on her, the walls pressing in with a suffocating weight. She forced herself to stay seated, her body trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "What do you want, Sophia?" she demanded, but her voice wavered, betraying her fear. She could barely keep her hand steady, her fingers gripping the phone as if it were a lifeline. "Revenge," Sophia said simply, her tone like ice, each word a dagger aimed at Victoria's heart. "You took everything from me, and now it's time for you to pay. You think you're untouchable, but your time is running out. I will dismantle everything you hold dear, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but ruins." A shiver ran down Victoria's spine, the icy calm in Sophia's voice unnerving her, slicing through her usual confidence like a blade. She could almost feel Sophia's presence, as if the woman was right there in the room with her, a ghost from the past haunting her present. "You're bluffing," Victoria hissed, though the tremor in her voice gave her away. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with," Sophia replied, her voice dripping with malice and a quiet fury that sent chills through Victoria. "A snake, a murderer, a woman who destroyed her own husband and betrayed her family for power. But your empire is built on lies and blood, Victoria, and I will expose every last secret. I will make sure the world sees you for the monster you truly are." Victoria's grip tightened on the phone, her knuckle aching from the pressure. She felt as if the ground beneath her was crumbling, her carefully constructed world teetering on the edge of collapse. "You can't touch me," she spat, desperation seeping into her words. "I have power, influence. You're nothing. Power?" Sophia's laugh was a low, sinister chuckle that echoed through the phone, wrapping around Victoria like a vice. "Your power is nothing compared to the truth. And the truth is, you are alone, Victoria, surrounded by people who fear you, but no one who loves you. And that, dear stepmother, is your greatest weakness." Victoria's mind raced, her thoughts a chaotic whirl of fear and fury. She could feel her control slipping, the iron grip she had on her life loosening with each passing second. "I'll destroy you," she vowed, her voice a raw whisper. "I'll find you, and I'll destroy you." "You can try," Sophia said, her voice soft and deadly. "But remember this, I've already lost everything once. There's nothing left for me to fear. But you have everything to lose, and I will enjoy watching you lose it all." The line went dead, the silence that followed more deafening than any sound. Victoria stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her heart pounding in her chest like a war drum. The shadows in the room seemed to grow darker, the weight of Sophia's words settling over her like a shroud. For the first time in a long time, Victoria felt a flicker of something she had almost forgotten. Fear. It twisted in her gut, a cold, gnawing sensation that threatened to consume her. She had built her empire with blood and ruthlessness, but now the ghosts of her past had come back to haunt her, and she knew that the game had changed. Victoria's hand trembled as she set the phone down, the echo of Sophia's voice lingering in her mind like a dark spectre. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, and she struggled to draw in a steady breath. The once formidable office, with its luxurious furnishings and commanding views, now felt like a prison closing in on her. She stumbled back to her chair, sinking into the plush seat, as if her legs could no longer support her. Her eyes darted around the room, paranoia creeping in, making every shadow seem like a lurking threat. The whiskey on her desk beckoned, as she reached for it with shaking hands. Spilling some of the amber liquid as she poured herself a drink, she downed it in one gulp, hoping the alcohol would steady her nerves, but it did little to quell the rising tide of panic. Sophia's words replayed in her mind, each sentence a venomous barb that pierced her carefully constructed armor. Your pyre is nothing compared to the truth. You are alone, Victoria. The truth. That was what terrified her the most. She had buried her past beneath layers of deceit and ruthlessness, but now it was clawing its way back to the surface. Victoria pushed herself up from the chair, pacing the room in a futile attempt to regain control. Her mind raced, searching for a way to counter Sophia's threat. She had faced adversaries before, crushed competitors, silenced dissenters, but this was different. Sophia knew her secrets, the dark underbelly of her success, and she had nothing left to lose. The office felt stifling, the air thick with tension. She moved to the window, pressing her forehead against the cool glass as she gazed out at the city skyline. The lights of the city twinkled innocuously, a stark contrast to the turmoil churning within her. She had clawed her way to the top, built an empire with lies and deceit, and she couldn't bear the thought of Sophia coming back to take everything away from her. A knock at the door snapped her out of her spiraling thoughts. She turned, her eyes narrowing as Rachel timidly entered the room. "Victoria, are you all right?" Rachel asked, her voice tinged with concern. Victoria wanted to lash out, to tell Rachel to get out, but she held back. Instead, she nodded curtly. "I'm fine, just dealing with some business." Rachel didn't look convinced, but she didn't press the issue. "Is there anything I can do?" Victoria shook her head, her mind already racing with plans. "No, just make sure security is on high alert. And I need to make some calls." Rachel nodded and left the room, leaving Victoria alone with her thoughts once more. She picked up the phone, dialing a number she hadn't used in years. When the line connected, she spoke in a low, urgent tone. "I need your help. Sophia's back." The voice on the other end was gruff, seasoned by years of dealing with Victoria's ruthless demands. "What do you need?" "Protection. Surveillance. I need to know everything Sophia is doing. Every move she makes. Consider it done." The voice replied before the line went dead. Victoria hung up the phone, a semblance of control returning to her. She would not be defeated so easily. She had built her empire with blood and cunning, and she would fight to protect us with the same ferocity. But as she looked out at the city, a cold realization settled over her. This was no longer just a battle for power. It was a war for survival, and the enemy knew her darkest secrets. Sophia had returned, and the game had changed. The hunter had become the hunted, and Victoria could feel the walls closing in. She steeled herself, knowing that she would need every ounce of her cunning and ruthlessness to survive what was coming. The Queen of the Empire would not fall without a fight, but for the first time, Victoria felt the icy fingers of fear wrap around her heart. She took another deep breath, the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. "You want a war, Sophia? You'll get one," she muttered to herself. her voice resolute, though her hands still trembled. She was Victoria, the queen of this empire, and she would fight to her last breath to protect what was hers. But as she stared into the night, she couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were closing in and the true battle was only just beginning.